Actually, we did receive a paper bill this month. Is that easier?
Yeah, that actually works. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, you're right. Jeez, your bills are getting up there in the summer. Well, even on a month like this, this month wasn't. I mean, you didn't use your AC or anything like that. But see, look at this is interesting. Because look at even looking at your bill right here, you only use 650 kilowatt hours, which actually isn't a lot, but you still hit the tier 2 pricing. You see that?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Again, PG&E, they know what they're doing. They're not stupid. They got this figured out. You know what I mean? What I'll do, this actually looks pretty good for this program. What I'll do, I'll send this into my office. They'll run an analysis and see if the numbers work. See if you're actually using enough kilowatt hours. Is there a spot we can
grab a seat right there? Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you want, you can grab a seat there. Thanks. So let me. So I'll send this into the office real quick, and then what they'll do, they'll pull up your usage in kilowatt hours and in cost for the past 12 months. Then we'll be able to see how many kilowatt hours you guys are using annually. Okay. So let me put that stuff in real quick. I'll submit it. They'll start working on it right away and see if this is even worth it for us here. So how long have you been in the house for?
About 5 years now.
Oh, sweet. This is a nice place.
Thank you.
This is good. Really clean. Yeah, I like these tile. Was this here already, or did you put this in?
Oh, we actually remodeled when we bought the house.
That's really cool. Are you guys planning on? Were you like flipping it, or no?
No, we just
fixed it up the way you
Yeah,
wanted
exactly.
it? Cool. This is nice.
Thank you.
Did you guys move from where were you at before?
Oh, we've always lived in the area. We moved from Sacramento.
Okay, cool. But Sacramento, and I'm sure you guys felt this, Sacramento coming from SMUD, right?
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. I mean, when it was SMUD, we didn't really think a lot about our energy bills, but
well, you're right, and you think about it now probably when you open those bills up, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And I've had that question a lot. It's like, well, why is SMUD so much cheaper? You know what I mean? It's like the same stuff. Have you ever thought about that before?
Well, I mean, is it just because PG&E is such a big company? I don't really know why.
Well, I mean, there's a couple reasons, and it's really how PG&E is set up. And you look at PG&E, they're publicly traded, right? So they have to produce for their shareholders. That's key. And the other big problem is they've done a good job, right? They've built this massive infrastructure, but it's so expensive to maintain. You know what I mean? You think about, even San Bruno, right? The explosion that happened, even though it was a while ago, all those costs are now starting to hit and trickle down. And I'll tell you, if they get tied back to the fires, which I don't know, have you been reading the articles?
Yeah, I've seen that there's been fires all over California that are being tied to PG&E. Tell you,
that's going to be millions and millions of dollars in fees. And guess who's going to pay for that? Yeah, it's right here. That's and when they make a mistake or something happens like that, we end up paying, as the consumer, paying for it. And you look at it and it's like, your lights in this room aren't shining any brighter than somebody's lights in Folsom, right over the hill from you. Electrons, it's the same stuff. And really the only reason why you've bought power from PG&E since you moved into the house 5 years ago is because, I mean, let's face it, you guys haven't had an option. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not a choice. There's not an option. And we don't like that idea. We don't like that concept. It's like they're telling you what to pay, when to pay it. And it's not. When they raised the rates 15% last year, last year was 15%. This year is 13%. It's not like they sent you a letter in the mail and said, "Hey, what do you think about the rates going up? Cast your vote," right?
Yeah.
I didn't get one of those letters. And it's like, "Hey, your rates are going up. Get your checkbook out." And that's, what are you going to do? You're not going to not pay it. No,
there's not really any choice.
Totally. And that's where we get. I mean, that's where we get passionate. we don't like that concept. We don't like that idea.
So are there going to be any rate raises if this is a good fit for us and we want to go with V3?
Yeah. Well, the thing is we can predict what a company's going to do in the future by looking at what they've done in the past, right? And we know what PG&E is doing. The writing's on the wall. It's no secret, right? You know it. You understand it. People in your neighborhood, they get this, and it keeps going up. And so, yes, anything that you could lock in, anything that you could give predictability to, is going to put yourself and your house in a better spot. And don't get me wrong, you'll save money in this, right? This is a simple math ratio. Instead of buying power at whatever on average you're paying, tier 2, 27 cents, right? And maybe our rate comes back, and I'll see what the rate comes back at, because it does vary from house to house.
Is it based on region, or how does it vary?
No, actually, it's based on a lot of things. It's based on the pitch, the tilt, the azimuth, which way your house is facing, directionally speaking, the shade, the trees. All this stuff takes in consideration of when when it's actually worth it to do the project. Because we make our money by producing electricity, right? So if we're not producing it, right, we got a system up on your roof and it's not working. Guess what? You're mad at us because you're back buying expensive power from PG&E, and then we're not coming out of our $40,000 deficit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's nice because and I should ask, and it's Dorothy, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And I'm Eric. I'm sorry. I don't know if I introduced myself earlier. But this is obviously in this case where you keep getting these bills and you keep getting these statements, and it's getting to the point where it's getting up there. Really, there's and solar's been expensive. I don't know what's been your exposure to solar so far. What have you kind of heard, or what's the good and bad?
Well, we have some neighbors who got solar.
I'm gonna take my jacket off. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. But I think they took out a loan to finance it, which is really not something that we want to do right now. So I never really thought of it as a good option for us because it's just a really expensive thing.
Totally. Well, and you're right. It's really historically there's been two ways of doing solar. Okay, the first is, like you said, get out a loan, right? Which is, I don't know. Everybody's in different situations, right? And maybe that was fine for your friend. And don't get me wrong, we're not opposed to that. If somebody wants to write us a check for $40,000 or they want to get out a loan, we can certainly do it that way. Not everybody wants to go into debt to buy electricity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's pretty significant, especially, young families that are growing and, they have other expenses, they have other loans that they need to get, and it affects debt to income ratio, right? So there was that option, right? Which you've heard of people doing that. The other option that came along was a lease option. Now this is not a lease, what we're talking about here, okay? The problems with the lease options are, I've yet to see a lease that doesn't put a lien on the property, okay? Which is a concern,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Are you in real estate, or what do you do for work?
I'm a teacher.
Oh, you're a teacher. Okay, cool. But yeah, when you go to sell your property here, it's problems. That lien has to be satisfied. That lien has to be listed, or the bigger problem is it becomes a negotiation. You know what I mean? You don't want a negotiation when you're going to sell your house. So that's a concern. The other big issue with the leases, and I use Solar City for example because they've done the most leases out of anybody. But they come out and say a house like this, and they slap 30 panels up on the roof, and they charge the customer $148 a month, right? Mm-hmm. Customer's like, oh, that's great. That's lower than what I was paying. The problem is that doesn't mean that system produced $148 worth of electricity, right? Okay. Remember last year we had those 3 months where it was raining whole month?
Oh yeah.
Where we got out of our drought in those 2 months. But right, they still paid that $148 or whatever it was, but the system didn't produce that electricity, right? So what happens is they had to pull it from somewhere, right? They had to pull it from PG&E. And so at the end of the year is when PG&E actually billed them, okay, which is called a true-up statement. Okay. So what happens is they were opening these true-up statements and they were like, $1,800, and they're like, whoa. Wow. And I don't know if you heard the horror stories or had friends that have done the leases, but it's because the system didn't produce what it said, what they thought it was going to produce, right? And maybe it was on the wrong side of the house, or maybe there was trees that were shading it, or the weather, right? There's a lot of things. And again, these companies weren't held liable for what the system actually produced, which is a concern. So obviously this isn't a lease. That's the one option we do not offer for obvious reasons. This option here, we literally call it a utility option. That's what it is. Okay, so we're paying, like I said, we're paying for the system, installation, maintenance. We have to make sure it produces electricity, right? That's our job. Does that make sense?
So how is this different than the lease, though?
What varies significantly from the lease versus this option is the lien, and then also the production. Like, we're guaranteeing it, we're warrantying it. We have to make sure that it produces a certain amount of electricity. Does that make sense?
Okay, so it's gonna produce more of like what we're using than the companies that sell the leases?
Totally. Well, not necessarily. I mean, it is, but it's about production. You're paying for what the system produces.
Okay,
not just because whether the size. Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense? So
yeah.
But
so it's like replacing PG&E.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really what it's doing is it's finally giving you an option. It's giving you a choice. Because up until now, truthfully, if you moved in this house 5 years ago, right, and you bought the house and you came in and they were like, okay, would you like SMUD or PG&E? You're like, which one's cheaper, right? We'd all be on SMUD out here, but you haven't had that option. So now this is finally a choice that you have to have a choice to buy power, and of course it's coming from a clean energy source. You don't have to pay anything to have it. And we just use a small portion of your roof to produce it. Now, to be fair, back to PG&E and kind of how their rates are going up and increasing. Last year they went up 15%. This year 13%. They already have another rate increase that they're already pre-approved for. The PUC, the board. I don't know if you know how it works, but they have to go in front of the Public Utility Commission Board. The problem is they've never been declined for a rate increase. Right? So they go in front of the board, they keep getting approved. So anyways, there's another rate increase that's going to happen. I think they're saying March sometime. I don't know. Have you got the letter on that or?
No.
Okay. Most people just shred it anyways, right? But anyway, so in essence, to be fair to PG&E, on average, they're going up about 10% per year. Not 8 to 10% per year. So as you can imagine. And to be fair, our rate does go up. Our rate goes up 2.9% per year. Okay, so 2.9%. If you think about that number, that's a cost of inflation. That's the cost of doing business. It calculates out to be a little less than a half a penny a year on the rate, which is pretty small. But as you can imagine, as we're going up ever so slightly, right, and PG&E is going up like this, as the years go on, this gap starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it puts yourself and your house in a better and better spot. You know what I mean? Do you guys plan on staying here for at least another 6 months to a year?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. So is this kind of a longer term play or?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at schools here before we moved in, and this is where we want to raise the kids.
Cool. And your kids go to the same school you teach at?
No, they don't. I teach high school, and they're both in elementary school.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah. That's great. What grades do you teach?
I teach 10th grade.
Oh wow, 10. That's brave of you. That's a tough grade. I don't know. Is it hard?
Yeah, it's hard, but it's rewarding.
Yeah. No, awesome. I have a lot of respect for teachers. I had some great teachers in high school, and but I think about I should have been nicer to them. You get the idea, right? And when you can predict something, right? When you can have an option for something, makes a pretty significant difference in over the long run. Especially if you guys stay in here a few years, and PG&E is not going to go down anytime. I don't remember the last time they, you turn on the news and they say, hey, PG&E is actually lowering their rates this year, right? I've never heard that before. And so, in this case here, truth is you want to buy as much power as you possibly can from us, not from PG&E. Now, right, because we're not as expensive, right, and we're not going up 15%. The problem is that's not up to you. That's not up to me, right? That's totally up to your house, your roof, okay, which way you face. And that's a tough part of our job, is finding the right situations, right? Like the usage has to be high enough. Like I was saying, if you don't use enough power, it's just not worth our time. It's not worth our investment, or if your house is facing the wrong direction. And actually, I don't know if you know Judith. She's up the street. She's on the left.
Yeah,
nice.
I talked to her.
Yeah, older lady. She loved the idea of this program. Like, she was like, "Oh, this sounds great." I didn't think, and unfortunately, once we ran the numbers and put the numbers together, it didn't make sense. She has a ton of you've seen her house and all the trees out in front.
Oh yeah.
It was blocking where we needed to put it, and her usage was a little bit lower than your guys's here because it's just her there. But so it's pretty. Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't work out. And so usually for the homes that we can make the numbers work, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. Actually, sweet. So I sent that into the office. Let me see if they sent that back to me. Hang on just a sec. Let me pull up my email. Cool. So what do you guys like to do for fun? What are your hobbies?
We like to go dancing.
Oh, okay, cool, sweet. Clubbing? No, I'm just kidding.
More like swing dancing.
Swing dancing.
Stuff like that.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. Swing dance. I used to, I did a little swing dancing in high school, which was fun. Yeah. Cool. So actually, I got this back. Let me just review this real quick. So they put a full analysis together. Okay, this looks better than I was thinking. Okay, this looks good. So check this out. So right here, if you can get your bearings straight here, this is the driveway here, right? Okay. So this is coming around. This is what we're probably sitting right here. This is the front of your house right here. As you can see, and I don't know if you knew this when you bought the house, but you actually have a really good roof for this.
Yeah, we didn't know that.
You probably didn't know. And I'm assuming, like, over here, it gets, I mean, that's where we were going to put the panels there. It gets pretty warm in here. Does it get pretty warm in this room?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
In the summer? I bet. So yeah, you actually have, it looks like you have a ton of sunshine to get enough sun up on there. And pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You have this group of panels right here. Now don't get me wrong, don't hold me to this. This could actually change. So if we come out and we do a site analysis before everything's, said and done, but we get up there and we do the measurements, or we look at the sun exposure, and maybe this tree that we think is 45 feet, maybe it's 60 feet and it's casting shade here, so we shift them over here. I don't know. I'm just saying. But yeah, so that kind of gives you an idea of kind of what they would look like and where they could possibly go. So your numbers actually look really good though. This is turning out great. Let me ask you this: Do you think you guys use power like you'd like to? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, we try to be pretty conservative about it, and just
because of the high bills, or
yeah, definitely. I mean, just being really careful about turning things off when we're not using it, and just turning the TV off and just not using too much.
Totally. Would you guys use more if it didn't cost you more per se?
Potentially, it would be nice to not have such a high ramification if we use a little bit more. Like you were saying, like Christmas time, putting up lights. I do get concerned about that kind of stuff.
Totally. What do you guys keep your thermostat at in the summer?
In the summer, we keep it Around 75.
Oh, so it's still pretty warm. So you would maybe keep it a couple degrees cooler.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, definitely in the summertime.
Yeah. It makes
one of the biggest expenditures is
those
bills for the running the AC, and
oh my
definitely
gosh,
like to keep it a little cooler.
I know. Well, it's a lot of people are like, that's like, for us, it's like those are the months where we want to plan a family vacation or something like that, and then you open a $600 PG&E bill, and it's like, dang, that can throw off some plans, for some people. I mean, not everybody, but yeah, I know what you mean. That totally makes sense. So the good news about this is, again, your sun exposure is really good, which means your production is really good. Now, in this case, and I'll explain what this means, but we're at 103% offset. Okay, so what that means is we did a full analysis of your usage. We saw how many kilowatt hours you used last year. Let me ask you, was last year pretty, just thinking about last year, was it pretty average year as far as your energy consumption and like who was living here and who was coming and going? Okay.
Pretty routine.
Cool. So based off of that, you're at 103% offset. Okay.
Okay.
So what that means is it's going to produce even a little bit more than what you used last year.
What happens to that if we use the same amount as last year? What happens to the leftover, the extra?
You get credited at the end of the year. So how it works is everybody and this is for everybody that's on any type of solar at all, or it doesn't matter how they get it. This is what they're on. So right now it's called a net metering. Okay, so when we come out right now, you have what's called a smart meter, right? The smart meter counts one way; it counts forward. When we come out, we add what's called a net meter. Okay, the net meter counts forward and backwards. So let's say we have the panels up here, right? And it's whatever. Let's say it's a hot day in July. Okay, and you guys are out of the house, or you go up to Tahoe for the weekend or something like that. You're still using some power because things are plugged in and stuff, but you're not in here cranking your AC or anything like that. So what happens to that excess power? It actually goes back onto the PG&E grid, and you guys get credit for that. Okay. So now you will draw from those credits at nighttime or on a rainy day, right? But you might pull from a credit you banked in July. You might actually pull from it in December. Does that make sense? So we're looking at this on an annual basis. So when we configure how much we need to produce for this house, we looked at your annual kilowatt usage. Now luckily for you, we give you a little bit of, it's not it's just what we can fit up there. It gives you a little more room to use power a little more liberally. So, and I don't get to say this in every case because this isn't the case. I get excited when I see that because it has nothing to do with what I want, And I did my friend's house actually here in El Dorado Hills. It's a nice house, but where he's at, the homes are close together. So he's in a 1-story and there's a 2-story right next door to him. So right where we needed to put solar panels was shaded from the neighbor's house. You know what I mean? So we actually only got him a 50% offset. Okay, so what that means for him is 50% of his power is coming from us, 50% of his power is coming from PG&E, right?
Okay.
And so anyways, PG&E will still send you a statement every single month. Okay, it's called an NEM or Net Energy Metering Statement. The easiest way to think about it is a bank account statement. It tells you your positives, your negatives, your debits, your credits, right? What power you gave to the grid and what power you took from the grid. So, and then at the end of the year, right? Because the year kind of comes like this in production, and you're out of the house, or it's a hot sunny day or whatever. At the end of the year is when they say, okay, after all was said and done, you took more than you gave. You owe us X amount, or you gave more than you took, right? So to answer your question, if you used exactly the same and you had that 3% left over.
So at the end of the year, PG&E would be paying me?
Totally. Wouldn't that be nice for a change? but the problem is, and I want to be clear on this, because we're not doing this to make money off of PG&E, and you're not doing this to make money off of PG&E. You're doing this to get away from PG&E, right? And so, and I've had people say that, well, if they're going to pay me for power, just light this place up. You know what I mean? But it doesn't make sense for you, because when they pay you out, if they had to pay you out at the end of the year, they only pay you out at 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Okay, So they're just kind of flicking pennies in your face.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you'll use that extra power. I mean, that extra 3%. You'll keep your thermostat a degree or two cooler, which will make a difference for you guys. So that looks great. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just want to make sure we're on board there. So to make it really easy for you guys, well, that 103% offset, and because you have good production out here, your rate at which we're providing, which you're getting power from us at, is coming back at our premium rate, which is 17 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're going to be buying 103% of your power lower than the lowest tier PG&E.
And so there's, like you were saying, there's no tiers with this program. It's
right.
all at that rate?
Totally. Huh. And do you remember what tier 1 was?
Like 20?
It's like 20, yeah.
20
good job.
cents?
20 cents. So you're going to be buying all your power lower than the lowest tier. That's money. I mean, that's really good news. Now, I'll tell you where this number comes from, but so again, we're warrantying it, we're taking care of it, we're maintaining it for the 20-year term, right? Now, if the average utility company going up in the nation is 4.75%. Okay. Now we know PG&E is a lot more than that, but say somehow PG&E figures out a way to come down to the national average, which they won't. They never have been. And remember our 2.9. Remember our rate goes up 2.9. Based on those numbers, over the 20 years. You guys will save $15,825.
Why is it over 20 years?
Because that's how long we service it, we warranty it, we maintain it. So if something breaks, if something happens, if something leaks or any issues with it, we take care of it. So you don't have to worry about it or maintain it or worry about fixing it or anything like that. Now, obviously, we don't expect you to stay in your house for 20 years. Right?
Yeah, I was going to ask. I mean, we're planning on staying for the next, foreseeable future, but in 20 years, it's possible that we might want to move.
Totally.
How does that work?
No, and we don't expect that. And so what happens is, just like when you bought this home, right? The utilities for the home were with PG&E, right? You called them up and you transferred the service into your name.
Yeah.
Same thing. They call us up, they transfer the service into their name. Now the good news there is they're actually grandfathered into the rate that you guys locked in, 2 years or 4 years or 5 years or 10 years prior. So I don't want to make it sound like it adds direct property value. So your property taxes aren't reassessed or anything like that.
Okay.
But as far as sellability or curb appeal, absolutely. Right? I mean, remember when you were looking for houses, right? If you found a house on this little cul-de-sac right here, that one of them, the utility was half as much as the other, that'd be pretty attractive. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And especially the fact that you're locking in a rate now versus even in 2 years from now or 5 years from now. So my wife and I, we recently purchased a home in El Dorado Hills, and we were looking all over the place, but trying to stick in El Dorado Hills, but we looked at a ton of homes, and I was looking for a home that had this type of program set up like 5 or 6 years ago. That's even better than the employee discount that I get. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Does that make sense? So for you guys, and yeah, for you guys, it makes sense, especially in the long run too. What
about like if we did want to sell our house, the person the new buyer would just inherit the whole program and
totally.
The maintenance package and everything?
Exactly. Yeah. So they don't have to come in and worry about, who do I got to call to service it or maintain it or anything like that. It's all included. Transfers over. Just like when you transfer the service of PG&E, they're responsible for the lines, right? If there's a tree that came and fell on the lines, PG&E would come out and cut it down, those type of things. So yeah, we're servicing it. We're taking care of this, whether it's you or somebody else living here. So certainly makes a difference. Now, in this case, to make it really easy for you guys on the budgeting side of things, because right now it's probably pretty difficult because you're anywhere from you know, you're down here in your bill, and then
Yeah.
you're way up here, and you know, it's
You don't really
hard to
know
predict. It's hard to
what
budget.
to expect until you get the bill. I mean, you
Totally.
know it's going to be higher in the summer, but
Yeah, you
that's
open it
about
and
all.
you're like, you know, say a little prayer before you open it, and then you're like, oh no. Yeah, so to make it really easy for you guys, we take what the system is going to produce, and we multiply it by 17 cents, right, which we're
Okay,
providing
right.
power at, and then we divide it by 12. So now your payment, instead of going all over the map, or I shouldn't say your payment, your electric bill will be the same every single month. Okay?
Oh, so it's the same like fixed
Same.
amount.
Same, and it'll be $119 a month, which is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So what that means is you're never going to see a $400 bill again. You're never going to see a $300 bill again. You're never going to see a $250 bill again, right? You're never going to see a $150 bill again. That's pretty good news. You know what I mean?